Hi everybody, it's Shaylin. Welcome to my channel. I first want to say that I'm really sorry for all the false starts that have been going on. I've been coming on, it seems like once a year and being like, oh, I'm going to start doing shit, and then I don't. And that's because I've been looking for something that I really wanted to do that was going to light me up, that was going to make me happy, and that I could talk about ad nauseum every single second of every day for the rest of my life. And that is music. I'm a huge music nerd. It's just, I'm not a musician myself. I probably should be, but I love music. I love talking about it. I love thinking about it. It's huge for me. And how I'm coming into this, which I actually think is sustainable, is a good friend of mine and fellow music nerd asked me the other day who my favorite band artist of all time was. And I was not able to answer that because I said you'd have to go into genre and decade and all kinds of just other minutia and figure out what that is, because there's so many bands that I could say are my quote-unquote favorite band or, quote-unquote favorite artist, and I wasn't able to do that. But I said what I can do is I can tell you what my favorite albums of all time are. So that's what I'm looking to do. Now, I set some ground rules for myself. No greatest hits albums, no compilations, not getting into that because that would be cheating as far as I'm concerned. What this is going to enable me to do is bring in some albums that I truly, truly love that are maybe made by artists that are not some of my favorites. That might not make any sense. There are bands, artists, singer-songwriters that have made albums that I think are basically perfect, but I don't listen to the rest of their catalog. So I wouldn't consider them to be one of my favorites. So that's going to kind of allow me to do that. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to leave out some artists that I truly love because maybe they've had a very long career, and over that career, they've made some of my favorite songs, but those songs are spread across many, many albums over several decades. If that sounds fun, stick around. And as I said before, I am not a musician myself, so I'm not going to really be getting into technical stuff here, because frankly, I don't have the knowledge, but I'm just going to talk about albums that mean a lot to me and have inspired my life and inspired me and just made me happy over the years. So that's as far as this is going to go. Now, obviously, I have not heard every album, because if I were to have heard every album, I would be some sort of omnipotent being, and I'm not. I'm just a human. I'm sure there are lots of other notable artists that I really have never gotten into, and I think that's just kind of the nature of it. So, and this list is in alphabetical order. I went through my library and I just started from A, and I'm going to go down. So if you're waiting for me to do a video on, let's say, Zebrahead, real band, you're going to be waiting quite a while. But I'm not going to be doing a video on Zebrahead, just so you know. Although Rescue Me is a great song. I'm going to put that out there. Guys, if you're watching, just know that. With all of that being said, let's get into this, and we're going to start with the first album that came up alphabetically in my music library, and that is the self-titled album from Adema. This album came out in 2001 when I was 19 years old and had a pretty good amount of radio play, particularly the two singles that came out, The Way You Like It and Giving In being the more popular one, the one that got more radio play, but both of those were played on rock radio pretty frequently during that time. I would not go so far as to say that that was the height of nu metal, not a term that I love, but whatever. But it was definitely in the heart of that time, and when those groups were very popular. It's kind of interesting that it's come back around and nu metal has become actually like very popular again. The festival Sick New World just happening for the first time last year, happening again this year. Lots of those bands playing. And this album in particular, I just love it. I still listen to it. I've gone back to it over and over again over the years. Other than the two signals.
Oh, I'm such a shit.
Other than the two singles that I mentioned, The Way You Like It and Giving In, the album begins with probably a song that I enjoy even more than those two, and that's a song called Everyone. And then it ends with my favorite song on the entire album, which is a song called Trust. There's Pain Inside, Close Friends, Freaking Out, other ones that I can't think of off the top of my head, but it's, to me, it's top to bottom a very, very solid album, especially if you're a fan of the genre. The lead singer, Mark Chavez, went by Marky Chavez. I hope he still doesn't do that. He's probably a, I don't know, 55-year-old man at this point. So Marky Chavez is actually the half-brother of Jonathan Davis from Korn, which I'm sure helped them get a record deal. I'm not going to say 100% yes or no on that. I do think that this album stands on its own, especially within that genre. I like lead singers and bands that have a grungy, kind of almost industrial feel, which I think that this album does. Lyrically, yeah, I mean, it's typical nu metal lyrics, nothing too intellectual, certainly nothing too complex, but sometimes I think simple is the right way to go. Particularly on Trust, you have the chorus is I'm so alone, guilty and lost. It's easier to let you go. Time will erode the shame and the fault. It's easier to let you go. And it's just about a relationship that's kind of reaching an end and breaking apart. And I think lyrically it says what it needs to say, and it was effective to 19-year-old me, and I enjoy the whole aesthetic of it. A little bit of history on Adema. Had a hard time staying together. They came out with obviously the self-titled album that we're talking about, and then follow-up called Unstable. You won't be seeing that one for my next video, but they have another album called Unstable that actually has some really, really good songs on it. I actually like that album a lot. It's just not as good as this one. The one that sticks out to me on that one the most is So Fortunate. I like that. Slower, kind of more moody song about becoming a father. But they did do an EP in between the two albums called Insomniac's Dream, and that EP came out shortly after Lane Staley from Alice in Chains passed away. So they did a cover of Nutshell that is, very famous, probably the most famous Alice in Chains song that is pretty okay. And there's another song off there, the single that came off of there, I believe, called Immortal, which is another really good song by them. I know I'm only supposed to be talking about the first album, but I want to throw some other stuff in there. So after the second album came out, Unstable, they broke up and they linked up with a new lead singer. I don't remember what his name is, and came out with an album called Planets in 2005, I believe. I picked that one up, but it just wasn't the same. And part of the reason it wasn't the same, strangely enough, is that this new lead singer actually, I feel, was more of a talented singer than Marky. No offense, Marky. But yeah, the sound changed. It didn't have that kind of grimy thing to it. It was a lot cleaner, and something about that took the charm away. After Planets came out, they tried to get back together on a number of occasions. On one occasion that I remember very, very well, I bought tickets to go see them, and I believe it was the day of the show or maybe a day before the show, and the show got canceled because they broke up. That's a fun one to go back to. In doing a little bit of checking before I made this video, in the past couple of years, they have come out with a couple of singles. I believe one in 2021, another last year in 2022. Seems like they got back together with Mark. I cannot confirm that 100%, but hopefully they can get back together and give us a proper third album. That would be pretty cool. So that is alphabetically the first album on my favorite albums of all time list. Hope you enjoyed this. But yeah, like, subscribe, share, do all that good stuff. And thanks for checking this out. See ya.
6.5 hours later.
Hey, well, I'm back already, and I decided not to shoot video for this because as I was editing, I realized that there was some information that I got wrong that I wanted to correct, and that is that the new singles that Adema have released over the past couple years, I mentioned it sounded like they got back together with Marky, and that was just based on me listening to the songs. But it turns out that they are still not with Marky and have joined up with Ryan Shuck, who was one of the founding members of Orgy and also had a band, Julian K. We will definitely be talking about Orgy a little ways down the line once we get there alphabetically, but really good linking up with him. I think that he fits their sound very well, and as I've listened to those songs, I really like them. I think they're actually very good, and he fits them so perfectly that I had a hard time distinguishing his voice from Marky's voice, and I would say that that's a good thing. So that is the mistake that I wanted to correct. Ryan Shuck, great choice for them. I wish them lots of luck going forward with him. It seems like they're already doing a pretty good job with everything, and yeah, I think it's a great fit for someone that is well versed in the industrial, futuristic kind of sound that I believe I mentioned at some point in the video that I enjoyed about Adema's first album. So that's it. Again, hope you enjoyed this. This is my first video that I've edited and put together this way. I'm learning how to do it as I go, so I hope none of you are judging too harshly. This is all very, very new to me. And other than that, I hope you guys all have a wonderful day. Thanks for stopping by and checking this out, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.